Some places are known for their beauty, others for their history, and some for the stories people refuse to speak of. Along the eastern coast of India, in the state of West Bengal, lies the popular beach town of Digha. Crowds gather here every weekend, the shoreline bustling with tourists, the scent of fried fish and sea breeze blending in the air. But few know of the hidden side of this beach, an old, abandoned stretch where even the fishermen refuse to set foot after dark. Locals whisper about the drowned ones, spirits of those who never returned from the sea, and those who have seen them have never been the same again. Aniket was a travel vlogger, always on the lookout for unexplored places, stories hidden in the fabric of time. He had heard rumors of a stretch of beach that had been sealed off decades ago, a place where bodies washed ashore, their eyes open, mouths full of sand, as if they had been screaming when they drowned. He was drawn to it, the forbidden beach. Against the advice of locals, Aniket made his way past the crowded main beach, beyond the dim glow of streetlights, where the shoreline stretched into darkness. The sand was damp beneath his feet, untouched, the air heavy with the scent of salt and decay. And then he saw it, a single wooden post driven into the sand, covered in faded red cloth. A warning. But curiosity got the better of him. He stepped forward. At first, nothing happened. The wind picked up. The waves roared louder. But it was just the ocean, wasn't it? Then he saw the footprints. Not his own. Fresh, wet footprints leading from the water, coming toward him. They stopped just a few feet ahead. The sand was undisturbed around them, no trail leading back. And then came the whisper. A voice so faint, carried by the wind, barely audible. "Turn back." Aniket's breath hitched. He turned sharply, scanning the beach. There was no one there. The town's lights flickered in the far distance, but here he was completely alone. Or so he thought. Then he heard it, wet footsteps, not his own, right behind him. He turned. And there in the moonlight stood a figure, a man, his body bloated, his skin pale, his clothes still dripping seawater, his eyes open, unblinking, hollow. It was impossible. No one was there a second ago. Then the man smiled, not with his lips, but with his eyes. And then the whisper came again, louder this time, rushing in with the wind. "Join us!" Aniket stumbled backward, his breath ragged, his heart hammering against his ribs. The figure took a step forward, the wet sand beneath it undisturbed, as if it was gliding. Then another figure appeared, and another, and another. All of them, waterlogged, their mouths full of sand, their empty eyes staring at him. Aniket ran. He ran faster than he ever had, his feet sinking into the wet sand, the sound of whispers and footsteps echoing behind him. The town's lights grew closer, the sounds of people, the smell of food, the living world. He didn't stop until he collapsed onto the main road, panting, his body shaking. People gathered around him, asking if he was okay. He looked back at the dark stretch of beach. It was empty, no footprints, no figures. Nothing but the sound of the sea, endless and unforgiving. The locals found him the next morning in his hotel room, his belongings packed, his face pale. He left without speaking a word, without uploading any footage. But he did leave something behind, a single wet footprint on the wooden floor of his room. And from that night on, whenever he closed his eyes, he could still hear it. The whisper, "Join us."